In today's video, we're going to talk about how a player's on-field performance impacts the value of his cards throughout the season. We're going to use the 2024 NFL season. We're going to use cardladder.com to make some big takeaways, not only about player investing, but just big picture investing before season starts. But first, here's your intro. Alright, today for this video we are going to use cardladder.com. It is a phenomenal tool. It's something that I pay for every month. Let's pull it up. We've talked about it on the channel before, but it basically treats players like stocks almost. So you can look up Patrick Mahomes like he's Facebook and just track the value of stock in his cards over time. If this piques your interest and you haven't seen our previous video, search for Card Ladder in our videos, and we have one video where I talk through basically everything that it offers. But we're going to start by looking at an index here. This is something that I tried to emphasize before the season starts. This is football. It's comprised of like modern football cards and vintage football cards. So it's trying to give you a feel of football as a whole, as an industry. And you can see over the last 6 months since the season started, there's preseason hype. I need to move my head. Hold on. All right, hopefully this is better. So going into the season, there's preseason hype. Everybody's excited. Here's our first week of football season. And then everything begins to progressively fall. There's a lot, it's one of those like, it's kind of the same thing as opening a box of cards. Everybody's brain tells them what's in the box is most likely better than having the sealed box itself or more valuable. Then you open it and you're like, wow, I just turned a $300 box into $40 of cards. It's great. The same kind of effect happens throughout the season every year. This year we have what looks like a resurgence over the last month. We have some cards gaining some value. But before we started, I did want to at least just illustrate the time to actually sell your cards is right before the season starts, when everybody's optimistic about every player. Everybody's like, Kyle Pitts, he's only 24, and it's like they haven't seen him play for 4 years. Now we're going to click on players, and we're going to start by looking at Josh Allen. Josh Allen is not only, he has the MVP basically on lock at this point. He's played about 3 of the best games of football that have ever been played in a 3-week span, when I'm recording this video at least, on December 17th. And he just beat the Lions on Sunday, so we're seeing just a huge value increase in Josh Allen cards. Again, if you really care to get in the weeds of what comprises this index, you can see them all. They're all listed out here, so you just click on the cards tab. And then as far as the stats, you can see over the last 6 months, his cards are at 31%. Looks like the index number was about 8,800 pretty consistently, and now we're looking at 11.5. 11.6. So his cards right now, I know if we zoom out to like pandemic, they'll be higher, but his cards are as high as they've been since 2023. So that looks really, really promising for Josh Allen. We're at a 1-year high for sure. And the preseason hype I talked about, ironically, just doesn't apply here because people were pretty down on the Bills going into the season without Stephon Diggs. People just didn't know what they do, and Josh Allen just turned into a superhero. So this is one example of how just a great season, if you would have bought his cards in advance, would have made you 30%. I want to look up another few players. Let's check out Lamar. Lamar was the early season favorite to be the MVP, and it looks like his cards have just progressively climbed quite a bit too. So they fell from July to August. He was coming off a little MVP bump, so let's look at his 1-year chart. So this might be some kind of outlier, but it looks like his cards were doing very, very well. He won MVP, things cooled down, people got excited about this year. He was early season MVP favorite, came back down, but then, I mean, he threw 5 touchdowns on, he was like, last week, I think he was like 22 of 26 with 5 touchdowns. He was playing the Giants, so it wasn't impressive, but he was like playing perfect football. So his value keeps climbing as well. It's just not up as extreme as Josh Allen. His is only up 18% over the last year, or only 5% over the last 6 months. Lamar was already being valued a lot higher than Josh Allen just because the Ravens seemed like a more serious threat going into the season. Let's look at Patrick Mahomes, though. The Chiefs, again, at the time of recording, have only lost 1 game, but it does seem like one of the worst Chiefs teams we've seen in a while. His cards are up 10% over the last 6 months. That surprises me, just because his cards are already so darn expensive, and they just keep going up. So here's your 1-year chart, and it just seems like no matter what he does, they're winning games for sure, but no matter what happens or the stats he puts up, his cards continue to climb. He's impressive. Like, he's the best football player I've ever seen. It's just this year with the supporting cast around him, his stats just kind of make him look like a semi-average quarterback. Good to average quarterback. But there's been some fallers as well. I suspect Kirk Cousins is really struggling this year. There's a lot of hype about him going into the season. Let's look at what the 6 month looks like. So, season came in, people are thinking Falcons are going to for sure win their division. They're struggled. There's some ups and downs. At one point he throws for like 500 yards. And then over the last month, it's become apparent that he's like not even starter material right now. His arm looks pretty dead, and his cards are down 22%. So if you would have gone all in on Kirk Cousins before the year started, that would have cost you. Perhaps one of the biggest surprises and positive surprises this year is Sam Darnold. He actually looks like a very adequate quarterback. Of course, it's KOC, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison being around him certainly helps with Aaron Jones in the backfield. But he does look like a good quarterback, and he's going to make some money this season. If you've bought some of his cards, or if you have some of his cards, you've made some money too. They're up 131%. So there wasn't a whole lot of expectation. People assumed J.J. McCarthy would be the starter, and then Sam Darnold has taken over with the J.J. McCarthy injury, and his cards have absolutely skyrocketed. In October, when they were undefeated, they were even higher, but it seems like they've come back down to earth a little bit. Still, the Vikings look like a very good football team, and they just keep winning games. Sam Darnold looks like the kind of guy, what's going to happen is the New York Giants or somebody are going to pay him $120 million for 4 years, and then he's going to turn into a pumpkin. But right now he looks good. What about the injury bug? That's a good question. Dak Prescott is another one who the Cowboys have struggled all year long, so it's not like there's a whole lot of expectation in general. But then he's hurt and out for the year. So we see, let's go to the 6 month chart. We see season starts, they're struggling, has a couple good weeks. He gets hurt in November, and then it's just kind of fallen off since. So you're not down as much as I thought you possibly could be with Dak Prescott, but his cards are definitely down. What about old Saquon Barkley, who is having an MVP kind of season? His cards are up 70.79%, so that is phenomenal. Eagles look like a Super Bowl contender, and Barkley's definitely put them over the top. And then the last one I want to look at is Jared Goff. Goff has turned the Lions into one of the best teams of football. They're one of the most exciting offenses, and in return, if you would have bought Goff cards before the season started, they're up 50%, and they did that last year too for a while. If you look at the 1 year chart, here's like before playoffs last year, and then they made it to the NFC Championship, so there's a pretty good spike there. It looks like his cards have just kept climbing over the last couple of years. So here's last year. It's like, oh, the Lions are actually really good, aren't they? Playoffs, playoff excitement, and then they just keep climbing as the Lions look like one of the best teams in football. So one of the big takeaways is if you're able to predict the storylines from throughout the season, what teams are going to be breakouts and what stars are going to be breakouts, you're going to make some decent money. We've seen everything from 30% returns on like top-rated players to 180% returns on some flyers that surprise everybody. So if you know what you're doing and if you watch sports pretty consistently, you're not going to shoot 100% no matter what, but if you hit on more of your bold predictions than you miss on, you're going to make some money with just playing sports card investing throughout the regular season. Hope this video helped. Have some more coming out next week. See you then.